Hey everybody, hope everyone's doing well. This video is, you've probably already read the title, seen the thumbnail, but this is about the cut content of the first Resident Evil game. And the reason I'm doing this game is because I was going to do The Walking Dead Season 4, however, there's not much publicly available cut content, and the only stuff that I could find was done by a YouTuber who, he had everything pretty much already done. And it would just be me sort of copying him, and I didn't feel good about that. So I posted a poll on my community page, which, by the way, the community page is the way that I reach out to you guys. I don't really have any other social media outside of YouTube. Maybe I'll do it in the future, but as of now, this is the only thing I post on. So that's how I interact with you guys, and I posted a poll asking what I should do next, and Resident Evil won the poll. So in the future, make sure to check my community page because I post updates about videos, I post polls like that kind of thing. So yeah, this is a game that I found very interesting in its cut content. Not necessarily in the story aspect, but more in the level design as well as all the variations between the different ports that exist. The Japanese version versus the American version, among other things. And before I get started, Resident Evil is a series that I only recently got into. I really enjoyed the movies. Not the live-action movies, but the animated movies such as Vendetta and Death Island. That's what I really know the series from. I really enjoy those, I think they're fun, and the Netflix show. And so it's something I have very recently jumped into, and I've been getting around to playing the original games, and that's why I wanted to put this on the poll. My favorite is honestly Resident Evil 3, which has a whole slew of cut content, both the original as well as the remake, so that's something I might want to tackle in the future. So yeah, but without further ado, this is Resident Evil cut content. So first, I'm going to start off with some regional differences about the game. So, for example, the title pages in the Japanese release and the United States release are very different. In Japan, the series is called Biohazard, and in the United States and most of the English-speaking world, it is referred to as Resident Evil. Now, the story behind this is that Biohazard was already copyrighted in the United States. There was apparently a band that was using that name. So they held a competition within Capcom to see who could come up with the best alternative name. And apparently, an employee put in Resident Evil as a joke because, they're going to this mansion and there's evil inside of the mansion. And they ended up really, really liking it. So they ended up going with that title. The other curious thing about this title page is that Biohazard is split into two words. And so it's just Biohazard instead of Biohazard. That's just a little odd thing I noticed. Very strange. There were two different gameplay demos that released, and there's a slight difference in the amount of time that the title screen is shown for, as well as overall the demos themselves being different between the two versions. Some of the more gruesome scenes were censored in the international release. So when you encounter the first zombie, there's a full motion video that plays. Originally, it would have shown Kenneth Sullivan's mangled and decapitated head fall to the ground in a very, very gruesome scene, and this is an example of one that was cut from international releases. As well as a few smaller changes. For example, in the Japanese version of the game, Chris Redfield is smoking a cigarette during the character intros. However, in the American version, he's just standing there. They basically just overlaid the footage with him standing. In the character roll call in the Japanese version of the game, there's a song called Icy Glaze that plays by a Japanese artist. I'm going to read this off of my script because I don't want to get their name incorrect, and I might even pronounce it wrong, so I apologize in advance. Fumitaka Fuchi Igami. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. In all other versions of the game, there's a song called Terror, which has no lyrics, and that's what plays in the roll call thing in all the other versions.
Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine. Mary Burton.
In the character collect scene in the Japanese version, there's a difficulty that's listed underneath each character. So for example, Jill is listed as easy and Chris's is listed as hard. This was removed in international versions. So in the full motion video that plays in the game, they show these helicopter blades spinning against a cloudy sky. For some reason, in other versions of the game, the image is mirrored. It's not a different render, it's not a different helicopter or anything. The only difference is that the image is flipped. I could not explain it if I wanted to. I really don't know. In the Japanese version of the game, you cannot skip the ending cutscene in the helicopter. No matter how many times you beat the game, you just aren't able to skip it. And the funny thing is, a lot of the changes that I just mentioned would be reverted in the Deadly Silence DS game. So, there you go. There's quite a few pieces of cut dialogue from the game that showcase a few different situations that the characters would have been in.
Ouch!
Rebecca, what are you doing in this place?
Oh, Chris, I was almost attacked by a monster, but I escaped through the other draft hole. Then I came... Ouch! By the way, where are we?
It looks like a power room, but I'm not sure. How about you? Did you find something?
Chris, look at this.
What's the matter?
It's a triggering system for a bomb.
What?
Great! Wow, I've never seen such a big bomb. How come?
It's dangerous. Don't touch it.
These lines are within the game's files, but they are never seen anywhere in the game, which is really odd. It looks like they're lines from a scene where Chris is meeting Rebecca in the third laboratory, in his section of the game, I guess. However, the variation, I think the variation is that she would have been injured in this version. This scene would have basically foreshadowed the triggering system, which I think is very interesting. And it's honestly something that doesn't really have much foreshadowing in the game as it is, so this would have been a very good way, I think, a very organic way of having it introduced. It's worth noting that there are events that can be seen all over the laboratory, all over, a few different sections, and that appears to be what Rebecca is referring to in this situation. Most, if not all, of the unused voice acting can be found in the PC port of the game. That's usually where a lot of the leftover files in general are found, and this is because the PlayStation versions, because they're on the CDs, had such a limited data size. They were already crunching things down, so they were a lot tighter about what got in and what didn't. The idea of having the partner of the protagonist flee through an air vent would actually end up being reused in Resident Evil 2. So now we're going to get into some changed endings, and this isn't really an ending itself, but it's a slight difference. This is sort of a fun thing that was cut. There is an alternate ending video that would play that would show the main characters being killed in various gruesome ways in the Japanese version. And the way you unlock this is by playing a new save, having the unlimited rocket launcher on, and getting the good ending. And that's the way you unlock this cinematic, which is kind of funny to think about. I feel like games nowadays don't really have fun secrets anymore. I remember as a kid getting those cheat code books and finding all the secrets in the Lego games I played, and games that I probably shouldn't have played at that young of an age. And I just really think that we've lost a lot of the little charms and little details like this in games, because it's very much a pay-to-win game system right now. And what I mean by that is you've got a lot of free games with cosmetics, and there's not really much room for story or... and developers nowadays, with the culture behind it, they don't really have much time to put in these fun little secrets because they're too worried about the evil overlord EA or whatever studio is producing this game breathing down their necks. So like I mentioned in the beginning, how they changed the music from a song that had lyrics, it was a Japanese artist. They had it playing in the beginning. They also had a song by the same artist playing over the end credits. It was called, once again, I'm sorry if I butcher this name, but the song that played was called Yume de Owar Asanai. I am so sorry, I'm doing the best I can here. And it's by the same artist as the original. I'm not going to butcher their name again, I already feel bad enough. And once again, in international releases, this was replaced with a song that does not have lyrics called Still Dawn. And the interesting thing is that all later versions of the game, you know, re-releases, ports, including Japanese versions, would include this instrumental version of the ending, which I think is very interesting. It makes me wonder if there was some kind of contractual issue with this artist, or maybe they felt that it would just be easier to have the same music, have it be a consistent thing, and they didn't want to alienate people by having music with a language that a large chunk of their audience most likely didn't speak. Alright, well that's it. I know this video was a little shorter than normal. I'm sort of just trying to figure out what series to tackle next, because with not being able to do The Walking Dead Season 4, it kind of put a halt on a few of my plans. I have a lot of great stuff that I'm saving for Halloween, but as always, I'm open to suggestions. Please leave a comment below about that. But yeah, thank you. Have a good morning or evening or, whatever.